All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to MDE 54. Hopefully, we were all able to attend your morning lecture for Math 154, where we did an intro to Excel. What we're going to be doing today in MDE is kind of reinforcing a lot of the Excel stuff. I'm going to show you some of those course videos in my math lab again. One or two that might be slightly relevant, especially one to not making ridiculously overloaded silly charts. I really like that one. It's kind of fun. But like I said, just mainly going to be reinforcing some Excel concepts. Before we get into that, though, I would like to remind you that you were supposed to have enrolled in my math lab by 5 p.m. yesterday if you had already been enrolled in the course previous to day one. I'm giving got tongue tied there. I'm giving a little bit of leeway, and I'm going to give you one last ditch effort today. So if you haven't done that yet, get enrolled by 5 p.m. today. If you just enrolled in this course yesterday, and this is the first day in MDE, then please make sure that you understand you're supposed to go back and watch the lecture for the first day. You also have to go and watch all the lectures for Math 154, and you need to enroll in my math lab using the course ID that was provided. You would find that in the first day's lecture for both Math 154 and MDE 54. They're different codes. You have to enroll in both. You'll also find them in each respective syllabus inside of Canvas, and also it's in the title of the day one email at the homepage of Canvas for this course. So again, I delete all students who have not enrolled by 5 p.m. today if you were already enrolled previously, and 5 p.m. tomorrow if this is your first class meeting with me. And please, please, please understand that I am serious about this. I don't want to unenroll you. I don't want to withdraw you. I want you here. So yeah. All right. And as a reminder, I do keep the mics on mute for everybody. If you have any questions, you can post them up in the chat. I'm just going to say hi really quickly. There you go. What else was I going to say? I use a lot of pre-recorded material. I'll do a lot of things live, but also I'll do things with pre-recorded material here and there. So if you ever notice me say like an old date or something like that, just ignore it. Any dates that have to do with our class are always said at the beginning and end of class. But I really don't say a lot of dates in MDE 54 since homeworks don't really have any specific due dates. It's just pay attention to the homework problems we're doing for the week 1, week 2, week 3, and that's the stuff that you should have done in about a week. Remember that you are responsible for completing these homeworks eventually, sooner than later. If you fall 4 or 5 weeks behind on all your homework, that's when I start withdrawing students for lack of participation, because homework completion is tied to attendance for this course. And how are you going to learn math if you don't do the homework? Most people in general learn by doing the homework, not just watching the lectures, not just by taking the notes, but regurgitating everything. All right, so give me a second and we will set up.
Kind of do some, and remember, I'm not generally going to be doing homework questions in here. But for this first week, while we're not really getting into too much of the math, and you probably haven't had a lot of time to try out the Excel, I thought it would be a good idea just to show you some of the specific videos that our author made discussing some of the things we did today. So just, a different voice, a different appearance of everything. And then kind of go over some of the study skills questions, as well as I might just make my own list of things and then take questions from y'all if you have anything, again, regarding the Excel, anything specific. So, sorry about that. I don't know what's lunch clogged up my throat, I guess. All right, so remember, how do we get to the author? Not my videos, the author's videos. We go to Video and Resource Library. I'm only going to need to look at anything from chapter 0, so I will select Spreadsheet Basics and click Video. Apply now. And then there's a whole bunch of these. So a lot of these are not going to be really relevant for you throughout the semester. Computer probability distribution. We're not doing statistics in here, so that's irrelevant. Computing a standard deviation. Again, statistics, irrelevant. This is one that might be relevant a little later. We will get into percent change, so maybe that one would be good for later. Adjusting column widths, we talked about that a little bit in our class today. VLOOKUP, this is a really cool function that Excel has that, again, is something that we really won't need in this course, but it has a lot to do with just what if analysis when you don't necessarily have the what if. It's kind of like you know the answer and you're trying to figure out the question. So that's what VLOOKUP can kind of relate to, but I don't want to get too much past that. Constructing a formula using the sum function. We did that once today, maybe even twice, because the last one you could use that or just add the two things. It's kind of interesting that they have this same video twice and one of them is 21 seconds longer. That didn't used to be the case. I feel like since they kind of updated a few things for the fall 2020 semester, there's some oddball moments like that, but I mean, it's just extra. It's not like you're missing anything. Copying a formula using the fill handle, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So a whole bunch of these. This section is all statistics, except for if. So we don't need any of those. I promise I'll stop coughing. If, again, is another awesome one. This is actually something I use in my grade books. You know how I tell you all that if you get a 90 or something, sorry, a 90 or higher, I turn it into a 100. But if it's less than a 90, you're only going to get 10 points added. I have to use the if function Excel to make that happen because there's a conditional statement there. If I just say add 10 points, then that means if you had a 92, my grade book would show a 102, but I don't want that. Statistics, 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 sum product, pretty awesome one. You might find a reason to use this in ways outside of class. And there's one or two times where it would be helpful in class, but is not necessary. It's just a way of doing two things for the price of one when you have a whole bunch of things being multiplied and added, kind of like when we introduced you how to do something called a weighted average, which is how your grades are based off of. So if you wanted to make your own grade book, this is actually a really excellent function to use in a couple of different ways. Min and max, awesome. Again, another if one. And I even noticed that the fill handles got like 3 or 4 versions of the same video now. But I mean, if one of them works, they're all going to work. It just might have a few extra sentences or something like that. So the first one I wanted was copying using a fill handle. Here we go. Now, I believe I hit the correct button to enable audio through the computer. If you don't hear anything, please let me know. But as long as you're hearing my voice, you should be able to hear.
We have seen how to use the fill handle to fill a formula. You can also use the fill handle to autofill a series. For example, let's say we would like to track an investment over a 20-year period, and we'd like to enter the years from 1 to 20 in column A. Typing these in one by one gets tedious. Instead, we can begin the series with at least 2 values, or as many as you would like, highlight those values.
Now I'm pausing here for a second because I want to go ahead and point out, if you remember I said in Excel, there's generally half a dozen or more ways to do something. And what he's about to do, I showed you 2 ways, but I intentionally didn't show you this way because I wanted him to. So he's going to do it a little different. I'm going to rewind a few seconds since I interrupted.
And then instead, we can begin the series with at least 2 values, or as many as you would like, highlight those values, and then click on the fill handle and drag down. And again, what Excel is doing is auto-filling this series, guessing that you want a linear increase all the way down to 20. It's very important that we started with at least 2 values. In this example, I used 3. If we hadn't done that, that's a common mistake. So let's delete this. Sometimes students will simply type in 1 value, and then they'll go to fill that value down. But because you didn't start the pattern for Excel, again, it's guessing a linear pattern, and so in this case, it's guessing the constant linear function of 1. So if I delete those values, again, we need at least 2 values, and then you can begin auto-filling that series down for as far as you would like. Now, we only went to 20. If you wanted to go to 20,000, scrolling or holding the mouse down all the way down to 20,000 actually is a little tedious. And so there is a nice button on the toolbar that will do the work for us. So again, we will delete all of this information, and we are going to autofill from, let's say, 1 down to 20,000. So you have to enter the start value, and then the home ribbon, go over to the editing section, and there's a fill button. Clicking on the drop-down arrow will give you a fill series. So click on series.
Sorry. I was seeing if I could make the quality a little better, but 360 is the max.
And pay attention to all the different arguments or pieces of information they're looking for. In particular, I want to fill my series down in a column, so I have to check that off. And I do want it to be linear. In other words, I want it to increase by 1 every step. The step value is how much you want to increase by for each step. And we want to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So in other words, I want my numbers to step by 1. So this isn't the start value. It's going to be the difference between the steps, difference between numbers. And then it asks, how far down do you want to go? So let's type in 20,000. Click OK. And it's as easy as that. Excel enters everything down. Now we can also autofill other common series. Let's say we had amount 1, so I type in AMT1, tab to move to the right, AMT2, tab. In other words, we have different investment accounts that we'd like to track. Excel will also guess the pattern for these, so I have to highlight at least 2 to give it the pattern, then click on the fill handle and drag to the right, and notice Excel is saying, oh, this wants to increase amount 3, amount 4, etc. You can use this for months, so if I type in January, tab, February, notice I'm using the abbreviations here, and Excel will recognize those as well. Click on the fill handle, drag to the right, and it picks up that series also. So autofill, really nice way to shortcut any series that you want to type in.
So great short abbreviated video. If it's 3 months into the semester and you can't remember how to do something like this, you could go back to the videos I made, but they're an hour and 15 minutes each and there'll be 2 of them. It's going to be a little harder to hunt that down versus I know I need to figure out how to use the fill handle. Let me go to the Excel stuff inside of my math lab where they're well labeled and a lot easier to find. Also, something he mentioned, excuse me, like I said, he showed the version where you type a couple of numbers in the sequence and then highlight them and then fill from there, and that works. He said that you can't just type the number and fill it down, but if you remember when I taught it in class, you can, but you have to use the control button on your keyboard. So that's 3 ways. He showed 2, I showed 2, and between the 2 of us, we got 3 ways in total. So that was just for filling down, numbers and sequences. Is that something you're going to need in your homework? Quite honestly, no. Is it something you'll need in the project? There'll be one that it would be very helpful for, most likely. Like I think I've kind of alluded to this. If we do a budget, you're going to need to label the dates of a month, and it would just be a lot quicker to label the first 1 or 2 and then fill from there automatically, letting Excel do the work for you. If you wanted to be, go against the grain and be a little more stubborn, you could do all 30 or 31, but again, you're just doing more work. But again, the nice thing of these videos is sometimes he'll give you something that's a little different and maybe you like his way. There is no possible way I can teach every single way, every single detail, every single layer of Excel because of the variety of ways you can do things. Now, that was the copying using a fill handle video, but there's other fill videos as well, like filling a formula. I won't watch the entirety of this one, but we'll watch part of it.
A spreadsheet can be used to do arithmetic.
Geez, this looks
familiar. To
familiar.
do this, you enter a formula by starting with an equal sign. Again, remember, every formula in Excel must start with an equal sign. And let's say we want to multiply the quantity ordered times the cost per item. Now, as a basic arithmetic calculation, this is just going to be equals 2 times, multiplication is the star above the number 8, the number 1. Of course, we could do this in our head. And when we hit enter, we get the result of the number 2. Treating Excel like a calculator where we type in the numbers ourselves does not use the full power and functionality of the spreadsheet. If we change the quantity ordered to 3, this product doesn't change. If we change the cost per item to $1.25, again, the cost doesn't change because we've simply entered the numbers 2 and 1, the previous quantity and previous cost per item. The power of a spreadsheet is using cell references. So instead of typing in the quantity, we click on the number itself, and Excel enters the cell reference, in other words, the address for that number, into our formula. So our formula reads equals C3. We then type in the multiplication symbol, and I want to multiply this quantity times the cost per item. And again, instead of typing in the number 1.25, we simply click on the cell itself. And Excel will enter that cell reference, D3, into the formula. You could, of course, type equals C3 times D3 into this formula, but I always find clicking is easier. Very important for you to remember, you need to hit Enter to get out of your cell. In some of the older versions of Excel, if you click someplace else, you mess up your formula or it will add in that cell. So notice instead of having C3 times D3, I clicked over here thinking I would get out of my formula, and instead it put in this cell reference. So clicking back on D3 gives me the appropriate quantity times cost per item, and you must hit Enter to get out of that formula and enter it. Now I would like to enter a similar formula in this cell, equals quantity times cost per item, hit Enter, etc. Keep doing this. Anytime you do a repeated action in a spreadsheet, there must be a better way or a shortcut to doing this. In an Excel, since we are constantly multiplying the quantity in column C times the cost per item associated to it in the cell next to it from column D, we can fill this formula down. To fill a formula, you click on the cell that has the formula in it. Notice if you double click, you actually open up the formula. You can edit the formula in here, or you can edit it up in the formula bar. I don't want to edit the formula though, I want to fill it down. So I'm going to have to hit Enter to get out of that cell, and then I click on it once to highlight the cell. And then in the lower right-hand corner of this active cell, there's a little square. Now watch how my cursor changes as I move it. Right now, the general look of the cursor is this white plus sign. When it goes over the outer border of the cell, it turns into the north, south, east, west, sort of the weather vane looking symbol. If I click and drag now, I'm going to move the contents of that cell to wherever I drag to. So again, if you click on the border of an active cell and drag, you will move it around. So the general look is the white plus sign, there's the weather vane on the border, and if I put it on the lower right-hand corner, it turns into the black plus sign. So that lower right-hand corner of the box is called the fill handle. You know you're on top of the fill handle when you see that black plus sign. Click and drag down, and that will fill the formula that we wanted, which is essentially just this quantity times this cost per item.
You get the point there. So, I mean, again, same information that I conveyed previously, but just from a different person, different perspective, occasionally a different angle, in a different way of doing things. I wish they'd update these videos to 720, but what are you going to do? So that's a great one in case you forget how to fill formulas. I'm only going to do one more, and it's formatting financial numbers, which is right here. Like I said, the main point of me doing this is just to remind you how informative they are, as well as where they are, and we have a little extra time together to do that. So
formatting numbers as currency in a spreadsheet is incredibly easy. You simply highlight the range, which contains the numbers you want to format, and then go to the number section of the ribbon, and note that it contains a button with a dollar sign. Clicking on that button will give you the appropriate formatting choice. Before we do that, however, I want to point out that a major source of confusion for students when they begin using spreadsheets is this idea that numbers can be represented or presented in different ways depending upon the formatting that you choose. Notice right now that we have a general format applied to these 5 numbers. One of them has no decimal places showing, a couple have 2 decimal places, and these 2 have 1 decimal place showing. When we click on this $ icon, all of the numbers are going to appear with 2 decimal places showing and the $ off to the left. Notice the word general has been replaced with the word accounting, which is one of the built-in formatting choices. Clicking the down arrow next to the word accounting shows you the most common formatting choices for numbers. Above the accounting format, there's something called currency, and clicking on that basically shows that you can move the $ next to the numbers if you wish. Again, I usually use the accounting format because it's so easy to just click on that $ icon and then.
Now I'm going to pause for a second. This is something that while it seems extremely minor, whether it's in accounting or in the, I just blanked at whatever the other name of it was, whether the $signs to the left or squeezed in with the number, this could cause you to make a mistake on the homework. So just be wary of that. And it's nothing that would cause a lot of points off. But remember, when you submit these, you can review and see what you did wrong. So if you see something that's talking about cell format, make sure that it is the right one between those two. So again,
to the numbers, if you wish.
Currency versus
again,
accounting,
I usually use.
Sorry, we were talking at the same time. Currency versus accounting. So accounting has them on the left side. Currency puts it next to the actual number. So again, that could affect homework answers, so just be careful. But again, you get 5 attempts for them, so it's not a big deal. Hopefully, if you get it wrong the first time, hopefully you figure out, oh, it says it's supposed to be this format. Let me make sure that it displays that as that format. So if it says format is currency, make sure you're using the one that says currency. If it says format is accounting, then you can just click that $ symbol because that $ symbol represents accounting for whatever reason.
Use the accounting format because it's. If these will contain a built-in or preset format, say as a percentage. If these are formatted as percentages, instead of seeing the number 1, they see the number 100%, which obviously causes them a lot of confusion. Often they think they did something wrong. And so again, it's incredibly important that they realize that all that has happened here is a different formatting choice has been selected. We can go back to General, which has no specific format. And then we can use these buttons, which will either decrease the decimals. So if I click on this, nothing will happen because one of them already has 0 decimal places. Or I can increase the decimal by clicking on this button, which automatically starts moving all of the decimal places up together. So it goes from 1 to 2 to 3. Notice it's just adding zeros now for all the decimal places of accuracy. If you want commas, you could click here. And since these numbers aren't bigger than 1,000, no commas will show up. Percentages, again, will look like that. And then the currency or accounting format you can get by clicking over here. So all of these different choices can be found in this number section of the ribbon. If you click on the arrow in the bottom right corner, you get the full complement of all the different ways in which you can format cells, one of which is changing the way the numbers look. And notice when we do this, we can choose different symbols. There's an entire list of currency symbols that you could choose from. So I'm just going to cancel that. And again, you get that full list of options by clicking this down arrow in the number section of your toolbar, which opens up the Format Cells dialog box. So if you have an older version of Excel, you might want to try to look for Format Cells, which will give you all of these options. That's it.
Cool. All right. So again, excellent videos. And even though there's probably like 30, 40, 50 in here, most of them you won't really need. I actually really like this one. This is something that we'll talk about next class.
Awful chart. Caution, more is not necessarily better. When making charts, it helps to remember KISS. Keep it simple, silly. The following is an example of a really bad chart, created by highlighting everything, adding labels you cannot read, and formatting with garish colors. Let's have some fun recreating this beauty. First, highlight everything from B2 through F10. Typically, use strategically.
So this is the next this is the next part of what we'll be doing in Excel. Well, the last part. There's 2 more parts we have to do, I should say.
Plan exactly what you want to chart and highlight that data accordingly. People who just want to get it done often highlight everything. Next, insert 3D clustered column chart. Lacking any sense of what information they're trying to convey, the get it done crowd resorts to Flash. Why choose 2D when you can go 3D? Not quite sure what labels are appropriate, the more is better mentality kicks in, and lots of data label boxes are checked. Surely both the series name and category name are important. Better check both just to be sure. And it doesn't cost anything. Yes, looking good. Like I spent a lot of time on this. Now for some eye candy. Right-click on the background and click on the fill arrow. Choose gradient and then more gradient options. Go nuts using the gradient stops slider bar, changing color at each stop. Right-click again on the background and click on the fill arrow. Choose gradient and then more gradient options. This time, choose a circular pattern. Nice. Looks like a sunrise over the Atlantic. I think our work here is done.
Again, just an absolute point of how not to do things. And all of those options he was going through, we will not have to do for this class. Oof, indeed. Oof, indeed. Not play. I was trying to minimize. Double click didn't work. So next class, when we talk about charts, these 2 column charts, bar and pie chart, probably really helpful. Using templates can be helpful. And like I said, just you can find some more. So use your eyes, find stuff that sounds like it's relevant. Don't, hey, we're probably going to doing binomial distributions in here. Nope, definitely not. If it sounds like something we're not going to do, we're probably not doing it. You're looking for cursor, that'll talk about the weather vane and all that stuff. Formatting of cells, we kind of already talked about a little. Or stuff with formulas, some more built-in functions. Again, the charts, graphs, whatever you want to call them. Special paste. I mentioned in class that the paste function of Excel works really, really wacky, and this will talk about that a little bit, but again, hopefully not really an issue. I want to remind you what your actual homeworks look like, because this thing that we were doing today and we will continue doing Tuesday is not the norm. That's more like a project, of which we only have 1 this semester. And I need to go back to my math course. Just pick the 11 o'clock because it doesn't matter. Assignments. So this will be our first homework, which we had a little peek at on Tuesday. We download. Like I said, you can download everything as a zip file and open them separately, but the instruction file is in the Excel file, so I typically just download the second option as long as it says XLSX, that's Excel. And then for me, in Chrome, the download goes here. If you're in another browser, you just have to locate it. Hey, look, there's our work from earlier. You are going to need to hit this button right here, Enable Editing. Make sure you hit that, otherwise anything you try to do, you won't be able to do. You have your instructions here. Tells you how much points each thing is worth, so you're not going to get any points for opening it. You're not going to get any points for saving it. Your 12 points in total are divided evenly for this one amongst typing one thing in this cell, typing one thing in another cell and filling it, and then making a chart. And again, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to show you how to do this. We're putting eyes on it together and getting an idea. So then you click over to the questions tab. All right, let's see what this says. average heart rate in beats per minute is given by the following formula. So a heart rate on average is equal to 220 minus a person's age, then times 70%. This is a formula. This is the formula they are telling you to use for all of this table right here. So part A, enter a formula in the output cell. So this is the output cell where there's a blank. That's what they mean by that. Then over in the instructions, they actually say which cell. So if you're not sure, in cell C11, blah, 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 blah. They say to do it for the age in cell C10. Format as a number with 1 decimal place. Make sure that you pay attention to all these little details. Format as a number with 1 decimal place, because if you don't, you lose credit. And see, it doesn't always say every little bit of thing, like it didn't say which cell to put it in, but it does tell you to format it to 1 decimal place of accuracy. So in this cell, you would be typing, because it's a formula, equals, and then something. And I'm not going to write out what it is, but I mean, this is the formula. It's just instead of writing age, they're saying to do it for a person who's 18. But you don't type 18 in the formula. You would not write 220 minus 18. You would have to write 220 minus, and then the cell reference. What cell? I'm kind of hovering over it currently, but I won't say it out loud. So I'm going to do a completely wrong formula, again, just for the sake of seeing something. So I'm just going to write equals, well, I think it's probably this cell, plus 5. That's the formula clearly, right? So the average heart rate of an 18-year-old should be 23 beats per minute. To me, that doesn't sound very accurate. If you're familiar, heartbeats tend to be in the range of like 45 to 180. You're getting your cardio on when you're like in the 130, 140 range typically. Now, I'm speaking for someone who's in their 30s. If you're older, you're not supposed to, quote, work out as hard. You're not supposed to get your heart rate up as high. And you know, there might be some different theories on that based on your health and things like that, but we're just keeping simple blanket statements. So this is basically saying that if you took 220 minus your age and then multiplied it by 0.7 or 70%, that would give you your average resting heart rate. Again, not your cardio rate, not your ice cold rate, your average rate. So for example, for someone who is, let's say, I don't know, 30, not my age, I missed 30. 30 was a good year. They're all good years. So 220 minus, let's say, a 30-year-old. So that's 190. But then you're supposed to multiply that by 170%. The parentheses say to do the subtraction before the multiplication. So we take that times 70% would be 0.7. So the average heart rate is going to be 133. And I believe this was for someone working out. So why did I pull up a calculator and show that? Because when you come up with your Excel formula that you type in here, while you're still learning Excel and asking yourself, does this make sense? And you're really, really paying attention, you should probably have the number to the side to confirm it, to make sure it's right. So if you know how to do the math by hand, do it by hand, then use Excel to confirm it. And that is not going to be the last time I suggest that to you. I'll be telling my regular classes that as well. Very often, you should be doing the math to the side for some of this to make sure Excel is giving you the right answers. Because if you just blindly trust Excel, I can guarantee you, you will make mistakes. And I say that as the voice of reason and experience. So that was the first step. And again, so they say right here, test your formula for an 18-year-old who should have a heart rate of 141 beats per minute. So I don't see anywhere that this says it's for exercise, but it's definitely exercising. That is not the average resting heart rate. That's kind of poorly labeled, but that's okay. We're not going to worry about that. So let's see if we can get that answer for an 18-year-old. So we go 220 minus 18, enter. So 202 and then times the 0.7. And there's our 141.4 beats per minute. So again, we confirmed that we got this. So that even tells us that after you put your Excel formula in, that should display 141.4. but I didn't do the right formula, so obviously it's wrong. Now you might try and be clever and say, oh, I'm just going to put 141.4 here. I'm clever. That's going to give me the right answer. I'm going to get full credit. Nope. Excel knows better. It's not going to give you any credit for that. It's going to say, hey, you did not actually follow the instructions. You did not write a formula. They said enter a formula. 141.4 is not a formula. Also, they did say to make sure that it displays one decimal. So let's say the answer was 28. If the answer is 28, that's not displaying the one decimal place of accuracy. You've got to make sure that you're doing these options to make it display one decimal of accuracy. Follow instructions to a T. Then part B, create a table of values. And again, in the instructions, a little more specific, they say that you're typing in cell C16. So there's cell C16, C16, C16. So we're going to do the same formula here that we did here. But we're going to need that formula in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 spots. Now, does that mean we type it in 10 times? You should already know the answer there. No, you're only going to do it once. So you would type the exact same formula, the equals 220 minus a cell reference times 70% here. But it wouldn't be the cell reference because we're no longer going to be referencing this cell. That is not the cell that should be used. It should be this cell that's being used because this heart rate will be based on an age of 10. So when you use a cell reference here, make sure that it's pointing, it's referencing the cell with the age of 10. So let's say I'm going to do my formula wrong again, and let's say I do just 100 minus this cell. My own formula that is completely wrong. I say if you just take 100 minus the age, there's your heart rate. All right, so average cardio heart rate of a 10-year-old 90. Definitely wrong, but again, I'm not going to type the right one. Then you're supposed to complete the table. Instead of typing that formula 9 more times, with this cell active, you hover over the fill handle, click and hold, drag down to the rest of them, and let go. And clearly a 100-year-old does not have a 0 average heart rate. That really emphasizes that my formula is incorrect. Then after that, they tell you to create a well-labeled column chart of this table from part B, add axis labels with the units of the variables, and add a title with the name of the dependent variable. Now you have to make sure, again, you're paying attention to the instructions. I've pointed this out several times. They say to do this, and we haven't talked about charts yet, so I really don't want to get heavy into this stuff yet. But they say, we're going to put the chart in that little window, K18 through R33. This is K18 through R33. It's not showing the highlighting because the background's green, but I am highlighting that. See, if I move a little right, you can see it. But that's where your chart's going to ultimately go. But you don't highlight the chart. You have to highlight the data and their labels and things like this. So you highlight this section, and then what they say to do is they tell you to select that range, B16 through C25. That's what I just did. B16 through A25. They actually don't put the labels up here, so I'll follow their instructions. Then they say on the Insert tab, click Recommended Charts, then Clustered Column, apply Style 6 on the Design tab. Again, very specific instructions. So on the Insert tab, click Recommended Charts. So Insert, and Recommended Charts. And then they said to specifically do clustered column, I believe. I think that's the one they wanted. I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to double check. Yes, clustered column. So the first thing that was selected was the right one. Then they say apply style 6 on the Design tab. So the style 6, these are up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's make it look like that. Oops. Then they say to add a chart title and choose the above chart option. Replace the chart title with heart rate. So one of the ways you can do that, I keep wanting to go to the wrong thing. This. You can double click on the chart title section and you can change it to, what did it say, heart rate something. Just heart rate. Oops, undo. And again, there's a few more things to this that I'm going to leave out for now because it gets a little too much into the submenus. Add access titles, replace access titles, blah, blah, blah. Again, too many submenus for that. But then this is what it looks like. And then you just got to make sure that you're putting it in those cells. So here's what's cool about your workbook, and I mentioned this before. So I need to pull up the shell. Let's go to eText, Chapter 1 guided worksheets. Open that up. Remember I said that every single Excel homework has a preview file in there, not file, but preview page or two. So here's the preview for heart rate. What formula did you type in that cell? So this would be helpful notes for yourself. Again, I won't make anyone do the previews. These could just be helpful for yourself. According to this formula, heart rate is a function of what input? Well, the input would be that thing. What are the units and output of this function? Beats per minute. Look at this though. This is the most awesome part. Almost all the time, they give you what the chart should look like. So I know that my chart is wrong because of this appearance right here. Because look at the numbers and look how they're different. Mine starts at 90 and goes down to 0 on the far right. It looks pretty good besides that. I mean, the blue, the coloring, I still need my axis labels, which again, we'll talk about later. So, I mean, it looks like it's close, but the numbers just don't seem to be right. So this even gives you a clue that, hey, that first answer should probably be like 145, 150, somewhere in that ballpark. The next one should probably be about 140. The last one looks like it's about 82, 83, something like that. This is wonderful because I'm going to show you what some people might do. Instead of making that, they'll highlight all this information and they'll do like I'm going to teach you in the next class, which is great for some things, but when they tell you to use a recommended chart, it fails. So I'm just going to make a general chart without using recommended. So I know I want to make a bar chart, so I'll click this, and I'll make a 2D column chart. And it actually labels things, but does that look like what we just had? No. In fact, it's got two different sets of bar graphs, and that's because of the two different columns. So there can be some complications when you're doing things like that. So this is not right. And I will tell you, this is a fact, almost half of my students, this is what they do at first for their first 1 or 2 submissions without me really emphasizing that recommended chart button because they don't pay attention. I'm getting a lot of emails this week about this course, which is pretty typical. And some of them are about things that I've sent as corrections in emails, and people might not be paying attention to their emails. And I mean, and some of it is just they haven't had a chance, but it's something that we have to become accustomed to. And nobody's perfect. I can't tell you how many times I think I'm paying attention and mess something else. We're human. I'm human. But we have to try and get a little better at it, and then get a little more better at it, and a little more better at it. Small improvements along the way. Quicker is better for when a grade depends on it, obviously, but you definitely want to be always improving. So again, with this Excel stuff, don't be afraid to do math to the side to make sure that the answer is right. Pay attention to the instructions. Read the instructions very, very carefully. So maybe there's a video on how to add access titles in that list of stuff in case you had to go back to it. I bet that's there. When you get your grade, if it's not a perfect 100, there'll be a little down arrow you can click somewhere near the points possible, and it will tell you why you got less than that. It might say, well, you did this and you're supposed to do that. Sometimes the hints aren't great, sometimes they're really good. But yeah. All right. So the last little bit I want to do I mentioned I want to go back to our actual course for MDE 54. Right here. Assignments. As I said, each week there are 2 different assignments. One of them is more related to things like study skills, note-taking skills, reading skills, stress management, time management, growth mindset, memory techniques, the power of mistakes. So half of these are things like that. The other half are actual math problems, and a lot of these are mostly prereq types of problems. Although admittedly, when we get to the later portion of the course, it starts to just kind of mirror a lot of the problems in Math 154, just kind of extra work. And remember that I'm not grading you on how many of these you do, because your grade is, quote, attendance, but attendance could be, hey, are you doing something here and there? And again, I've seen excellent participation live for the first 2 classes, but that could change throughout the semester. So it's loose. But like I said, I'm not trying to withdraw anyone just arbitrarily. I haven't seen this person for 4 weeks. They haven't done anything for 4 weeks. That's when someone gets withdrawn. So I'm not asking you to be sweating something like that. If you see a homework set has 56 questions, you don't have to answer all 56. You don't have to answer 50. You don't have to answer 40. You don't have to answer 30. Maybe you do 10 or 20 of them and you feel for you that's good enough. But again, this is about you. So if you think you need to do all 56, do all 56. If you think you already have your study skills down and you're looking through these and they seem all pretty sensible, then maybe you just kind of cut out after like 10 or so. Maybe you're attending every day and you don't do any of these. If you're making A's and B's in the regular QR class, then you're fine. But I did want to kind of just, since we're still not really into the actual math of things, I thought it would be fun just to kind of go through a handful of these, and then we can call it a day. And like I said, as I'm talking, please feel free to ask questions. iCloud is always fun. In college, students are free to choose their educational path, who to socialize with, and how much effort to put into their studies. Which option is the most likely effect? So cause and effect. When it's an E, that's cause and effect. Affect is a little different, but not that we need to be word masters in here. So which option is the most likely effect of this freedom? So there's 4 options, and you can always go back and get it right. And these are almost always multiple choice for this type of problem. So if you're going to try it, you might as well get it right ultimately. So because people are free to choose their own educational path, free to socialize with whoever, and free to put however much effort they want into it, what seems the most likely? Does it seem very likely that students will have a lot of time to study because of these things? Maybe that's what you think. I'm going to say it's wrong, but I'm going to check it. Students must manage their own time for classes, studies, work, and family and social events. So that's something that they have to manage, right? How about students must take early morning classes? I don't really see anything here that has to pertain with that. What does the time of day have to do with anything? I mean, sure, there's a couple of theories that people learn math better at 8 a.m. than at 8 p.m., but we're not getting that deep into educational philosophy here. Students usually earn poor grades first term. That actually seems like a good possible answer for me, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be students must solve their own problems because of these choices. Choices and freedoms lead to problem solving. Correct. Greater freedom leads to greater responsibility. Spider-Man, right? Kind of, sort of, not really, but good enough. Students must be proactive in identifying and solving academic and other problems. Effort, time. All right, so now we got that one right. I never have to do it again, right? What is the characteristic that is true of college rather than high school? Classes are spread out across the week. Students are assigned classes and schedules. Tests can sometimes be retaken. Instructors collect daily homework. Well, that was a good answer, and I don't want to say what they answered if no one's actually looking. Students are assigned, I'm sorry, did I say good? I think I looked at the wrong one. Students are assigned classes and schedules. Are we actually assigned classes and schedules in college? No, we choose them. Now, we might have an academic advisor or a counselor that suggests a schedule, and maybe they even force it, but actually, we're supposed to be free to make our own schedules and choose what times and days we take them if there's multiple choices. Now, your curriculum might mean you don't want to take certain classes and you need to take others. All right, so tests can sometimes be retaken. Final check. And they tell us the right answer. It was A, but what is a characteristic that is true of college that tests can sometimes be retaken? That one is kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's kind of floaty because there is the occasional, a very, very, very occasional class where they'll let you retake tests. In particular, what TCC's developmental math used to be, we would let our students retake tests. But is that the standard? Absolutely not. Generally, I would say 99% of the time in college, tests can't be retaken. But again, if I really want to get it right, I can hit the try again. It'll shuffle the answers, but it's the same question, same options. Classes are spread out across the week. We haven't chosen that. And instructors collect daily homework. Spoilers, not all instructors collect daily homework. So what someone said the second time of A, which is now D, correct. In high school, all your classes are back-to-back, but in college, you may have an 8 a.m. and then you don't have another class till 7 p.m. You might have classes Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but not Tuesday, Thursday. That kind of situation. Again, because of the floating schedules. When writing a college term paper, what are students expected to do? And like I said, I'm not going to go through all these, just a couple. I'm going to start skipping around after about 4 of them. So when writing a college term paper, what are students expected to do? Follow directions. I mean, that just seems obvious to me, but let's see. Ask someone to edit it before turning it in. Having someone else edit your work, that might actually get into, you know, are you cheating? Are you plagiarizing? Turn it in on a flash drive, maybe, but not in general. I think most people probably have electronic files, Dropboxes, Canvas submissions. Email is an attachment, but again, too blanket of a statement. So let's see. Someone said A. Let's try A. I mean, that was the one that sounded good to me, so let's try it. Yeah, follow instructions, follow directions. Literally what I was trying to emphasize with that Excel homework, that a lot of times people lose points because they're not following instructions. Guess what? Been there, done that. I've had plenty of times where I didn't follow instructions because I'm rushing and I'm Mr. Know-It-All, right? I'm not actually, I'm just having fun here. So I know what I'm doing. I don't need to read the instructions. Oh, wait, nope, did it wrong. Why are all these missing? I put together this 100-piece thing and it looks done, but there's 5 parts still remaining, you know? Maybe you should have followed the instructions before you built that coffee table from IKEA. Several employees at Sandy's job are arguing about who spends the most time answering the phones at the front desk. Sandy suggests that they forget the past and start today with a fair schedule. Which skill from college does Sandy demonstrate at work? Is it problem solving, stress management, financial literacy, or decision making? Stress management, you might say, well, someone's stressed because they're answering the phone too much. I think that's probably a weak answer, though. Getting a few options. I'm seeing some A's and D's, so these seem to be the popular one. Problem solving, that sounds pretty good to me. Or decision making. So it was a suggestion, so that might not be a decision. Let's see if it's problem solving. It was. So again, I could see why plenty of people would say it's decision making, but it's the phrasing of everything that actually says it's problem solving, because it's not her telling what to do. That would be a decision. It's a suggestion, and that's more problem solving. And yes, it could help with stress management because whoever's answering the phone more might now have less phones to answer, less time of answering phones. But it's definitely not financial literacy. There's nothing in here that says it's financial literacy. I'm gonna, like I said, I'm looking. I've got 4 or 5 in particular that I'm trying to find now, and I forgot to write the numbers down ahead of time. That's on me. Here we go. So this is going to be something that when we get to section 2.2 of the regular course, almost no one's going to know the answer to this except for y'all. Because remember how I said they used to tell college students that for every 1 credit you take, study 2 hours outside of class, and now they don't? This is something else. They used to always tell people what a quality point was, kind of how your GPA is calculated. But they don't really anymore. So no one knows that your GPA is based on what we call quality points. So an A counts as 4, a B counts as 3, a C counts as 2, and a D counts as 1, and F is 0. So there's your like GPA points. But these classes aren't like high school where they're all weighted the same. Some classes have more credits, some have less. So the more credits, the more weight that course has towards your GPA. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Well, that's weird. 11 is not an answer. Maybe I'm not just adding these. Let's see. I'm trying to look at the timestamps to see who. Those are the previous answers. That's what it is. So, okay. Let's read the question. It's not just adding these numbers. Clearly, 11 wasn't a choice. How many quality points does Sylvia earn in chemistry? So we're only looking at chemistry, so we don't need to worry about the bottom 3 rows. We're just worried about this one. So Sylvia earned an A, which gets her 3 credits. So an A counts as a 4.0 for 1 credit. But if you get 2 credits, you get another 4. If you get 3 credits, you get another 4. So here's the way it works. I'm just going to write this on the screen really quickly. Your quality points. Sorry, it's a little uglier than if I had a WordPad open. Or just Word, actually. Quality points is the grade value, which for an A is a 4, a B a 3, a C a 2, a D a 1, and an F a 0, times your credits. So we're talking about chemistry. We got an A, which counts as a 4.0, times the number of credits it's worth, which is a 3. So A sounds like the answer then, 4 times 3 being 12. If we asked how many quality points they earned for physics, so this was chemistry, just same question, but a different, oh, this is, okay, this isn't physics, this is phys ed because it says intro to tennis. That makes way more sense. See, I just had one of those moments. I saw physics and then tennis, and I was about to say, well, clearly someone messed up the table, but the cogs in my brain were turning, and I said, well, hold on. Phys could be physical education, tennis. Okay, now we got it. Ace. So for tennis, so again, that was for chemistry. For tennis, or phys ed, whatever you want to say, it's Q points. Even though this person earned an A in it, they're not going to get 12 quality points because it was only 2 credits. So the grade value is still a 4, but the number of credits is a 2, so you only get 8 quality points versus the 12. So the number of credits gives you more quality points for more credits. If you have a 5 credit class and you made an A in it, that's 20 quality points. All right, see you in a bunch of questions. All right, so let's see, I need to clear my screen, take off annotate, we'll select 12, see if we got it right. An A in a 3 credit course earns 12 grade points, not quality points. So that's grade points. Quality points must just be the 4 then. I had that wrong. I had them swapped, that's my bad. So when I said QP earlier, just please change that to grade points. Sorry about that. So it's 4. There we go. Quality points is the per credit one. I had the 2 swapped in my head, but did that affect my grade? No, I was able to correct it really quickly. Now, that's not something we're going to test you on in this course, but it would be very helpful since you're college students, and maybe instead of just looking at your transcript and seeing your GPA, maybe you're able to calculate it yourself. That would be an excellent project to do, except I would never ask you to submit your actual grades because that's not my business. I could give you fake grades, or I could just say, hey, this would be good for you. Try making it yourself. So again, let me just write down the correct version, and I'm sorry for that, but quality points is the A is a 4, make that a colon. A B is a 3, a C is a 2, a D is a 1, and an F is a 0. So the grade points was when we took the credits times the quality points. Okay. This was one I liked. What is one way college culture differs from high school culture? Course content is more important in college than high school. I mean, talking about importance of something, maybe, maybe not. Let's read them all though, and that's one thing that's very important. Read all selections before just clicking and moving forward. College instructors assist with homework significantly less than high school teachers. I tell you what, that sounds like the winner so far. Homework completion counts more in college than in high school. This is a very loose statement. If you have me for pre-calculus, homework is 20% of the grade. If you have me for QR, homework is 60% of the grade when you include all the different categories. So I don't know that you can really say that homework counts as more. Most classes, I would say testing is more. Students are expected to show academic integrity in college more often than in high school. I mean, you're adults, so maybe, but it still sounds kind of weak. I feel like that you should have the same integrity, whether or not that's a fact in reality. So maybe it's B, maybe it's D. Let's see what the crowd thinks. Getting a lot of Bs, so we'll go with B. Excellent. Students are expected to read, study, and learn on their own. Yes, there are resources for you outside of the classroom. We have the tutoring center, we have the internet, we have all the different stuff in my math lab. Can you imagine doing this course 20 years ago when online homework problems weren't really a thing? This would be much more difficult. So there's some pros to technology. It gives us headaches every now and then. This first week has been a challenge with all the technological flubs and stuff like that. 1 or 2 were my fault. 3 or 4 were technology's fault. This one, someone needs help writing a paper but can't afford to pay a tutor. Ask the department for tutoring services. That's pretty short and easy. No, I want to find those 3 more. Here we go. Jill has A's and B's in her history, art, and reading class, but she has a D in her math course. I feel like a lot of people would feel for Jill, as math tends to be the most challenging course for people on average. I'm not saying for everyone, I'm saying on average. How can Jill maintain positive self-esteem while she works to improve her GPA? You can't let things like this get you down. You can always improve. You can pick yourself up. We learn from our failures. So drop her math class? Maybe. Hope things get better. There's a phrase you may have heard, you can hope in one hand, and I'm going to not finish that statement because it's recorded. Blame her instructor. It's definitely blame the instructor, right? Celebrate her successes. So let's see what the crowd's thinking. D, yes. That sounds great. Drop the math course. Well, I don't really think that's going to help her positive self-esteem. If it's midway through the semester, that might help temporarily, but she's still got to come back to it eventually. And putting things off can cause a lot of anxiety as well. Sometimes it's better just to rip the Band-Aid off and get it done, especially with math. Hope's not going to do anything for you directly. Hope can be good, but action is better. Blame. You have to take all, I don't even want to use the word blame, but you have to have all sense of accountability in yourself. You are the proprietor of your destiny. I just combined some words there. You make your own destiny. You control your world. You might have a bad instructor, but you can still succeed even with a bad instructor. You just have to be strong, fight, study, use other resources, whatever. Blame doesn't get anybody anywhere. And what they say is when you point one finger, you got four more, or three more, three more pointing back at you. The thumb's not really pointing at you in that case. Responsibility, excellent, yes. So let's celebrate our successes. Correct. Nobody's perfect at everything. Nobody's great at everything. I'm excellent at math. When I took the SAT, my SAT score in math was very awesome. I'm very proud of it. I won't say it because I'm not here to brag. My SAT score in English was not excellent. I'm definitely not going to say that one because it wouldn't be bragging. But guess what? I didn't focus on that. I focused on how well I did on the other thing. And it doesn't just have to be something with education. This can be a lot of things. I'm trying to think of something that happened recently. I had a gutter half fall off my house when we had that hurricane a couple weeks back. It actually didn't happen after the hurricane. I guess it got knocked loose and it just wasn't showing. And then the next week when we had another little windy, rainy storm, I woke up and found half the gutter on the ground, but it was still attached to the house. So I had to try and reattach it, but unfortunately I was not successful in that. So instead I had to celebrate the success of taking it down and eventually hiring someone to help me put a new gutter up because it was busted at that point. Just fun little life stories. All right, I got like 2 minutes left, so I want to find those last two questions. No. The question 14 is pretty specific. No. That's an excellent one. What statement about online classes is true? Online students have less interaction with the instructor. Online students are not required to participate in discussions. Online classes require more reading than traditional courses. Online courses are not as difficult as traditional courses. Which one's true? C, we got another C. We'll go with C. Let's see what we get. Correct. Students must read their textbooks more often. Now, this is not a quote online course. This is kind of a hybrid. I don't even think I'm supposed to call it a hybrid course. It's just I'm teaching remotely. So you still have the potential for full interaction, just not face-to-face. But this is when you have an online course and just all the videos are available today. You could go through the whole course today pretty much if you wanted to. All right. Here's one. In online courses as well as in life, procrastination can be a problem. This is the #1 issue with students. Maybe #2 if critical reading was #1 and paying attention in critical reading. What is one way to avoid procrastination? So, ask a classmate how long an assignment takes to complete. Designate several blocks of time the week before the assignment is due to get it done. Readjust if needed, and let the situation develop, then react appropriately. Accurately estimate how long tasks take to complete in real time. I like D in terms of people trying to think things out, but it's not going to be the answer because it's not necessarily going to avoid procrastination. It might actually tell you, well, hey, since it's only going to take me an hour, I'm going to do it the hour before it's due. So while estimating a length of time for something to be done is great, not the answer here. Seeing a lot of people say B, which sounds pretty good to me. Designate several blocks of timing, and this is called blocking. The week before the assignment is due to get it done. Blocking saved my life in college. I was never going to do bad, but I mean, it made it so I was able to get everything done. If I didn't schedule block, if I didn't say, I'm doing my history homework here, I'm doing my math homework here, I'm going to go have fun here, I probably would have spent too much time socializing, got less work done, stayed up till 3 a.m. a lot more, slept less, made class less, and made C's and B's instead of A's and B's. So let's make sure that that's right. Depending on the task, you may not need several blocks of time. Ooh, that's interesting. See, I thought it was going to be that one, but let's see. What is one way, and I really think B is perfectly fine there, but and if they're just choosing the several blocks to pick on, but B was a great answer besides that. So what do we think? Ask a classmate, readjust it and let the situation develop. C doesn't sound great. Accurately estimate. I was thinking D at first, so maybe it was D. So they are saying it's D. Again, D and B are pretty good answers here. It's just the fact that they said blocks, that they said it wasn't the answer. That's kind of fishy, but it's not like you were ever going to lose credit for it because by the fourth time you'll have it right anyways, right? So you see what this stuff is about. It's not very time consuming. It's not going to be mandatory, but you might find one or two things in here that help you. And again, that time blocking, I think that's a very important aspect. Excel would be a good way to block out time, which you could do this last couple of minutes. And you could find one that's already made online somewhere as well, or use something that's not Excel, find an app for it. But you could have like Monday, Tuesday. Let's use Excel to get Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And I actually want to have my time slots over there. So let's move this column 1 to the right. Time. So if we just do this in blocks of 1 hour, we could have 9 a.m., 10 a.m. Let's see if we can highlight those two things and if it works. Nope. 11 a.m. You could do it in a different format, probably 9, that. See if that'll work. Yeah, there we go. So that's doing it in military time, but you get the idea. You could switch it up when you get to noon. You could make this a 1. And then fill that down. So 9 to 11, pretty good. So, all right, Monday at 1. Let's see, Tuesday, Thursday from 1:30 to 2:45, we got this class. So that pretty much blocks those out. So MDE, MDE. You can do that on Thursday. MDE. You could put your QR time slot in there as well. And maybe you're doing 30-minute blocks instead. That might be a better idea. Then you have your little 10-minute break. Maybe you're going to have lunch here, and then you're going to do math homework, maybe another hour of math homework, and then you're going to have dinner, and then you're going to relax, and then you're going to socialize. So you get the idea. I'm not going to make a full schedule for everybody here. And then maybe Monday, Wednesday, you're just working all day. So work, work. Don't worry about the capital at this point. I can fill it down, 9 to 5. There we go. Copy paste. Again, ignore the extra O. There we go. We're working Monday and Wednesday from 9 to 5. We've got our school stuff Tuesday, Thursday. We need a lot more study time built in here, but that's not the point. So we'll call it a day there. I hope that this was a little informative, a little helpful. But this is kind of how this class is going to go. Once we get into the actual mathematics, I'll do some math questions, of course, during this as well. But it's a little bit of everything, and you're always free to bring your own questions. Like I said, I won't answer homework questions directly, but you can bring a question in regards to material. That's certainly fine.
So that's what we're going to call it today. So next time we come back, we'll probably do some more stuff with Excel, or maybe we'll check out some of the homework questions. Like I said, I do actually mix it up with the homework more than what I was just saying there. I was kind of flying by the seat of my pants when I made that video. But yeah, so next time we'll play with Excel, we'll do some homework stuff, and I will go over the different types of homework questions as well from my math lab, like some of the more be a good student questions, as well as some more of the actual math questions like we saw today. So have a good one. Email me if you have any questions. Make sure you're enrolled in my math lab in a timely manner, and we'll see you. Remember that we do have a holiday on Monday, so we won't actually see you for another week. So enjoy your time off, but study hard and work hard along the way. Take care, everybody.